do that.
Okay. As Vice Chair of the Winnacunnet School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the Winnacunnet School Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 646-876-9923 and webinar ID 912-3929-9528, or by clicking on the following website address listed on the agenda: https://us0.web/j//91239299528. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for accessing this meeting. We previously gave notice to the public for the necessary information for accessing this meeting, including how to access the meeting through Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the SAU 21 office at www.sau21.org. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please call 603-926-8992 extension 103 or email at revans@sau21.org. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting will be done by a roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. We will now take the roll call.
Heidi Terracina,
Yes, here, present, and I have family in and out.
Henry Marsh, Leslie LaFond.
Here.
Is anyone with you, Leslie?
Oh, sorry, nobody's with me.
Okay. Mike Rabideau,
Here and alone.
Tony Delano. Tony, can we unmute you? There you go.
No, that's not it.
We got you.
We've got you. Yeah.
Okay.
Give
Well, I'm
anybody-
here and there's family in and out.
Okay. I have the roll call recorded.
Thank you. We'll start with the minutes. Any questions on the minutes for October 21st budget review meeting, regular meeting, and then October 28th budget review meeting, and November 13th special meeting?
I have no questions.
Do I have a motion to accept?
I'd like to make the motion to accept the meeting minutes for October 21st. Both the budget and regular meeting, October 28th budget review meeting, and November 13th, the special meeting.
Can I have a second?
I'll
Great,
second that.
Second.
thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Roll call. Aha, Rhonda.
Heidi Terracina,
Yes,
Leslie LaFond,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
Tony Delano.
Yes.
I have that roll call. I'm sorry, I have that vote recorded.
Thank you, Rhonda. Next, we'll have principals report. Bill McGowan, please. Unmute. There we go.
Good evening. Pretty brief report. The good news, I just want to recognize 3 students, Dasha Petrowski, Nathan Tadero, and Shay Lino. They have been named committed students in the 2021 National Merit Scholarship Program. So congratulations to them. And I do have a certificate, so I will get that certificate to them. And then the only other thing are just the enrollments. Total enrollments are currently, as of 2 days ago, 1,144 students. And
All
that's
right. Thank you. Matt, I think you're next. Finance report.
Thank you. So I'm glad to hear that word has finally gotten out about the finance reports, and I'm starting to see a following in the audience. We have attached 2 financial reports to the board docs for review. The first is our fiscal year to date expenditure report, which has no significant variance from last month. And the second report is the fiscal year revenue report. Please note that this is the first revenue report that's been included for this fiscal year, as revenue starts to come in, whereas in the first few months there was very little revenue. So please note there are a number of revenue sources that are reflected in the report. A good portion of the revenue is yet to be collected, almost $21 million. However, all revenue sources do have set schedules, and we are on track with all receivables. The largest of the revenue sources is the local tax assessment, which we do receive from the 4 member towns, and that represents just over $26 million, which is our operating budget. However, you will see that there's other local revenue included. That includes tuition payments. So these are students that are not part of the cooperative that tuition into Winnacunnet. We have bank interest, we have testing fees and donations that we receive from the public. Those are all included in the report. We also receive state revenue. This includes state adequacy aid, our special education aid, building aid, and this comes out to, we're estimating we should receive about $1.8 million from those state sources. Additionally, we have federal revenue, which is primarily Medicaid reimbursement as well as ROTC reimbursement. And that totals, we anticipate about just over $100,000 in receipts. And finally, included in this report is our food service program revenue. And that includes the actual sales of meals, but also the state and federal free and reduced lunch reimbursement. And that all totals out to just over $500,000 we're estimating. So at next month's meeting, we'll likely see a new revenue source, which is the new Supplemental Public School Response Fund. That's a new fund that the state recently announced a few weeks ago. They're allocating $45 million from the CARES Act, that the stimulus package, and this will provide $200 per student, for all school districts across the entire state. So for Winnacunnet, this represents about $214,000, which can be or needs to be used for COVID related expenditures. And this is really the impetus for this fund was in response to FEMA cutting funding, because FEMA had originally indicated that schools would receive FEMA funding, and we had actually applied and received preliminary approval for FEMA reimbursement. So the state responded by offering this fund. So we will likely utilize these funds to offset those expenditures that were incurred, that we expected, that we had designated for FEMA reimbursement. That includes items such as PPE, cleaning and disinfecting supplies, our technology investments that we've had to incur. So those type of expenses. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have in regard to the both reports at this time.
Anybody have any questions? All right, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. McGowan, you're up. No pressure.
So,
Oh, sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
okay.
Dr.
No, that's
Lupini
okay.
first.
that's all right. Yeah, Mr. McGowan's going to present in a few minutes
Sorry.
that's okay. The recommended return to instruction, in-person instruction for beginning with the second trimester. I just want to make a couple comments off some other pieces that are sort of wrapped around that. One is that with respect to Thanksgiving, our schools that are in person will remain in that mode. That is the in-person mode. We've done a survey of staff and students and haven't done what a number of other districts have done, and that was make a recommendation of a move to remote for the 6-week period between Thanksgiving and the second week of January. Although we've seen a number of those moves, we're not recommending that in any of our districts. The reason that means that staff and students who are traveling out of New England, who are in an in-person model, will be asked to quarantine for 14 days upon their return, or 7 days followed by a negative COVID test. That's what that was the modification that the governor noted last week in his press conference for people who leave New England. Now, that's important, and I don't mean to tip off Mr. McGowan's presentation, but that becomes important at Winnacunnet because the 7th of December, which is the beginning of the second trimester, is only 1 week removed from the Thanksgiving vacation or the Thanksgiving break. And so that would apply for in-person that begins on the 7th. And that's as much as I'll say about that until Mr. McGowan presents. I want to give you a perspective on community numbers. So I'm sure that we have seen a steady increase over the past weeks in the numbers of COVID cases in our communities. More important than that, however, is school-based situations. I've been asked a lot the last couple of weeks about the matrix, and one of the reasons that we stopped publishing the matrix is, quite frankly, it raised more questions than it answered, and it was meant to answer questions, so it didn't accomplish its goal, and I'll own that. But one thing we've discovered is that large numbers of cases in a community doesn't necessarily lead to school-based issues. You can have one case that's in school in a community that has 1 to 4 cases. We've had this situation that I'm describing, and lead to shutdown of a number of classes or a move to remote. So it's much more important what actually happens in the school. And it's true, we've seen very little to none in terms of transmission within the school. We have, however, had a number of situations and are dealing with a number of situations now where outside situations have brought COVID into the school. So you may know this, but I want to make sure I describe for you that right now in SAU 21, Hampton Falls which has been a school that's been in person, is on remote for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. All those grades, every class in all those grades right now. And we were able to limit it to that because of the way we cohort. So we have K through 2 and 6 and 8 that are in person right now. As of this morning, one of our classes in first grade at Northampton and one of our classes in kindergarten at Northampton are on remote through at least the end of this week. And I have 4 other situations that we are weighing right now, waiting for someone's test results or whatever in terms of where we may need to take further action in our other schools. So I talk 2 to 3 times a week with Ms. Costa in SAU 90. And I think I speak for both of us when I say that we are spending an inordinate amount of time each week on possible cases and weighing where we might have to take action within particular cohorts or within particular grade levels or broader. And it's become, and I just want to paint an accurate picture for you. It's become an almost everyday occurrence where we're dealing with some sort of tracing situation. But again, our other schools that are on remote have both made proposals to go back to some sort of in-person. And Mr. McGowan's going to make that tonight because we believe we can make that work, even within what I just described. We believe we can make that work. And so with that, I don't want to take away from any of Mr. McGowan's time. And I know we're going to have a public comment period devoted specifically to this agenda item afterwards. So with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. McGowan to present what he's been talking with us about and developed with his team and done a great job on. So Mr. McGowan, take it away.
Okay, good evening. Do I have the power to share my screen?
Rhonda can give that to you. It's quite a power, however.
You do now, Bill.
Oh boy. Okay, let's see how well I can do here. Okay, I think it's working. So good evening. Tonight I will discuss the plan to have students come back in person to Winnacunnet High School, and throughout, hopefully I will be able to address all the questions that have come up. But we have been looking at this for the last several weeks with the input of my staff and also with the SAU. So I thank everybody for their support. Our goal is to reopen as quickly and safely as possible. The considerations and priorities that we've looked at too is the community transmission, the students' risk and well-being. We understand without the in-person component, the social emotional aspect of students' lives is greatly affected. So we do recognize that, and we do want to bring the students back in. And at the same time, I need to make sure that we can provide educational opportunities for each student. We do know that there are some students that may need to remain remote for family and health situations. And I need to make sure that we can provide an education for those students also, as well as the students that come in person. Now, what we're proposing is a hybrid learning model. Some students will participate in person learning, while the other students participate in asynchronous learning. Again, it will be virtual. When the students are in the building, we will implement all the appropriate safety measures that we have. That will include wearing masks. Spacing in the classroom and the desk will be at least 6 feet apart. So we will maintain that 6 feet spacing in the classroom. We will cohort the students to maintain that 6 feet spacing. I can only have about 50% of the students in the building at one time. And by breaking those students up alphabetically, it does work out A through L and M through Z, that for most cases, it's roughly 50% throughout the building, throughout the classes. This will limit the transitions and mixing between the alpha groups so that there is minimal or no mixing between those two groups. And also, once we see the schedule, it minimizes the number of potential daily exposures for each person within the cohort. This includes the students and the staff. One of the most difficult things in the high school is to maintain those cohorts based on how the students move between classes. So based on the discussion that we've had at the school to minimize that, you will see shortly how we broke the cohorts up between 2 different blocks of time over 2 days. The benefits of the hybrid learning model, we will be able to maintain the A-B alternating schedule. One of the things that we've seen from the survey results is that, there's too much screen time. So clearly when the students are in the building, there will be less screen time. Ensures that the students can come into the building. They'll be in the school environment. allows for in-person meetings with teachers, counselors, and administrators. And also currently with the hybrid model, it will maintain those educational opportunities for those families that need to remain remote. And there's also no disruption to students attending SST. I'm going to talk about some of the trade-offs, and some of the trade-offs kind of reflect the benefits. Again, the model that we've come up with does provide students to attend SST. At the same time, there are some other options that we cannot implement because we have students going to SST. So our goal is to make sure that all students have the opportunity to attend and follow the paths that they have. We want to make sure that SST students do have that, and they will with this model. Students to choosing to remain remote, and it does limit some of the educational opportunities. So for the days that the students are in the building, these students would probably have to work asynchronously initially on those days, but as we go into phase 2, there'll be opportunities to provide a remote learning for them. And it does disrupt what we've put in place with the daily synchronous learning. Clearly, with the hybrid model, is going to be a mix of in-person teacher time, but again, on those days when the students are not in person, it will be independent asynchronous time. The students will learn asynchronously, and then the goal would be with the teachers to provide the lessons and information to maximize the in-person time that we have with the students in the class. So we think about what the flipped classroom is, that students can view videos and pre-recorded lessons on the days they're not in the school, and then the teachers can devote the time with discussion and work with the students on the days they're in the school. The instructional goals, when they're in person, focus on the direct instruction. And again, that will include laying the groundwork for the rest of the week. Focus on the skills and practice, reinforce, and we'll be able to have the direct feedback when we do the assessment. We can provide materials and handouts that the students will be able to use for the remainder of the week. And again, this will be the time for the activities that are best done in person. So again, watching a video clearly can be done home in the evening or the day that the student's not in school, but to have debates and discussions and practice labs, that would definitely occur in person. And then the assessments can be done in person when there's teachers and other support personnel to support them. When they're asynchronous, they can focus on those independent tasks that the students have to do. Again, tasks that can be done not on the screen. They can work towards completing the projects and portfolios. And there's small formative assessments that we can use when they do come in person. It will help benefit and make that in-person time more effective. This is a graph just to kind of show the trade-off as we move from direct instruction time and how we can impact the social emotional component. Clearly we were in the lower, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor here, but in the spring with the remote instruction, it was low direct instruction time, and clearly the social emotional component was not addressed. Currently with the enriched virtual learning, we do have academics every day, so we're providing more direct instructional time. But again, we're over here to the left where we're not meeting the social emotional needs of the students. As we move into the hybrid model, we do lose some direct instruction time. Again, when they're in school, they have that time, but also on the days they're not in school, it's going to be asynchronous, but we do meet the social emotional needs. And as hopefully as this year goes, and I'm hopeful that before the end of the 2020-2021, we're back in full person, which will clearly meet the instructional time and address the social emotional needs. What we've learned with this remote learning is that there's a lot of things that we will be able to use in education as we move forward to address the needs of those students that do not do well coming to school. So we've learned a lot on how we can deliver instruction in a remote environment. So this is phase 1, and we will start it in December 7th. And again, it's going to be 2 days a week. Mondays and Tuesdays will be in person. And students will attend a split schedule divided by the alphabet, A through L and M through Z on alternating days. And this is where we clearly took a look to see the cohorts and made sure that if we do have a case, we can limit the exposure to the teachers and the students in the building at that time without possibly shutting the whole school down, just based on how students move out through the building. So that's why we have on a Monday or the A day, blocks 1, 2, and 3, we will have A through L, students with A through L come into the building. We will have a break after block 3, an extended break where the students in the building A through L will go home, and we will have the students alphabet M through Z come into the building. So again, this limits the exposure of any one group traveling throughout the whole building for the whole day, allows us to maintain the cohorts. And then on the following day in the morning, the M through Z students would come in for instruction. And then the afternoon for blocks 4, 5, 6, students A through L. So on the days that the students are in the building, for example, A through L, in the morning, blocks 1, 2, and 3, M through Z students would be working independently, asynchronously at home. And then similar to in the afternoon, when M through Z students are in the building, students A through L will be working independently, asynchronously at home, and it flips on the next day. That will occur on Monday and Tuesdays, and then the following 3 days will be remote, following the schedule that we have in place now. Now, again, I just showed you kind of the 1 week, but the schedule would be a 2-week cycle. And this 2-week cycle allows us to maintain the in-person days on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then the remote days on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. At the end of that 2-week cycle, all students are in the building an equal number of times, and the remote days are equal. But it's a 2-week cycle. We will make sure that we publish the schedule daily in the daily announcements, so everybody can be where they need to be. The schedule accommodates the need to return to an in-person model, and it supports the students that remain remote. And again, we do have those days that are remote that will be able to provide support for all students. Moving to phase 2, we would be moving to 4 days a week with the in-person, Monday and Tuesdays, and Thursdays and Fridays, with a remote asynchronous day for everybody on Wednesday. That would provide an extended period of time for us to ensure that the building is clean and sterilized, and also provide students the opportunity to work asynchronously, do some independent work. Some of the decision points as when we implement phase 2, we need to have a better idea as far as who those students are that would opt out of the in-person due to health concerns and family issues. The results that we gathered from the survey that the SAU sent out a few weeks ago around Thanksgiving travel, we had 596 respondents who responded. Of those, 18% responded that we would remain virtual even if there's an in-person option. The other interesting information from that survey was that 25% responded, I'd rather keep a daily synchronous online schedule than disrupt it for periodic face-to-face instruction. I need to know so we can provide educational opportunities for those students that want to stay remote. We need to know who those students are. So if I need to, I can reschedule and provide options for those students. So after this plan tonight, hopefully it's accepted, we will be sending out a new survey with questions to get more information as far as who would be remaining out of school, what grade level they are, who they are, so we can put a plan in place that would meet those needs. And it's getting, again, it's going to be critical that all families respond. So, you know, people watching, if you know families that are not watching this evening, please let them know that when they receive a survey from us and work together, that I need that information back for us to move forward to make sure that everybody is represented. So again, this may involve some rescheduling. Once I have the information, I may have to reschedule some classes to support those remote students. And for example, I may have to reschedule some teachers. I mean, teachers may not be teaching all their blocks to students in person. For example, they may be teaching 3 blocks classes to students in school, but then they may be able to teach a class remotely during a different block. Staffing, I'll need to take a look at staffing. Again, it's very difficult for one teacher to be responsible to support both the students working in person and working remotely. We possibly could do it for a short period of time if teachers want to do that. But again, for an extended period of time, we cannot sustain that. So the option that we would look at is, could I provide some staffing that we have 2 educators in the class? One will be focused on working with those students in the class, and the other will be managing the engagement of the remote students. And then we also know that we may have some students that may not be able to come into the building because of some accommodations, that we can schedule those teachers to work with the remote students. Similar to a modified remote learning academy, with the high school, it gets a little bit more difficult scheduling classes, but it's something that we will look into with the knowledge that maybe we will not be able to offer all classes online that a student will be taking, but we'll be working with those students based on either rescheduling and or restaffing some of those classes to ensure that all students have an opportunity for education. Some of the factors that we'll look at, we'll review phase 1. If there's things that we need to change based on where we have successes, we'll incorporate those. If we've had areas there we can improve it, we'll definitely improve that moving to phase 2. Again, we'll be taking a look at the community transmission. Also, the impact of the ADA and the FFF CRA accommodations. Some of those do expire at the end of December, so we'll take a look into how that impacts what happens come the new year. As Dr. Lupini mentioned, holiday travel. And clearly we need to make sure that we can identify students that we need to serve fully in person and also those that we need to serve fully remote. And our goal is to implement phase 2 during the month of January. We've got December to finalize these plans, but some of these things are out of our control right now. But once we get a handle on those things, we will be able to move forward to phase 2. This is an example of the bell schedule. Classes will be 52 minutes. Again, block 1 will start at 8 o'clock. 4-minute passing time in between the morning or the blocks 1, 2, and 3. We'll have an extended break in there to do some cleaning in the building and to have buses to bring the students home from the first session and bring the students into the second session. Again, this aligns up with SST and again, how the students will be attending on those blocks. The implementation for December, again, trimester 1 ends on December 3rd. Trimester exams are the 2nd and 3rd. December 4th is the transition day. The in-person model will start December 7th and 8th. Remote the rest of the week. Again, the following week we'll be back in person, as is for the following week on the 21st and 22nd. Now, the reason we're doing this phase 1 is that currently through December, I still have staffing issues. It's not staffing issues, but we do have a lot of staff that do have the accommodations. So we'll be doing this similar to what we did for the beginning of the year for the orientation schedule, where those teachers that cannot come into the building, those teachers will be Zooming in, and I will have teachers in the rooms to support those teachers Zooming in. And if I do have teachers that do travel, that do need to quarantine during that time, we would also do the same thing. So, currently right now, the numbers of teachers that will be traveling is low, that will have no impact on implementing this December 7th. And then on 24th, I wish everybody a happy vacation. Okay, and that's the extent. I guess we're doing automatic. So any questions from the school board, and then we can open up for the public comment.
Yes, I have some questions.
Stop sharing, or if you need, I can keep the screen up there and go back and forth, or we can go whatever makes the most sense.
Yes, so I really appreciate all the work that you've done to put this together. It is not at all what I had envisioned in my mind, because I really had no idea what you were presenting today. So I thank you for this. It's a lot to digest right now, just quickly, but it is, you have certainly put a lot of work into it, and I appreciate that. So one of my first thoughts is when we do the Monday, Tuesday, getting the students in the school, I guess just my first gut reaction to that is there a way, I'm just wondering, to go Monday, Thursday instead of Monday, Tuesday, that if for some reason a student were to, come up with some type of COVID situation, it gives us a few day buffer in order to kind of catch that before they're in school 2 days in a row. I don't know if there's reasoning between Monday, Tuesday, or if it would make sense to go a Monday, Thursday, or maybe that's a terrible idea. I don't know.
I mean, the Monday, Tuesday is to maintain consistency, and as we move to phase 2. As far as a student coming down, with COVID-19, they could be on school Monday, but they may not know confirmed until Thursday, just based on test results and things like that. So I don't think there's going to be any timing in between. I mean, what some schools have done is they have the 2 cohorts, and they either have one cohort come in for the whole week, or sometimes for 2 weeks. If you come in for the 2 weeks, you have your 14-day quarantine period built in. Now, that's a 2-week period that the other cohort is out of the building. So it does provide some things from that standpoint. But I think for consistency and to get back into schedule of moving forward to phase 2 and then day-to-day, hopefully, day-to-day in person, was why we looked at the Monday, Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Question for, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tony, you had your hand up.
Yes, I had a couple questions. In phase 2, it looked like there was an entire day, Wednesdays, is it, that are asynchronous?
Yes.
Could you just explain that a little bit more? That means, what does that mean exactly?
So students would be given work that they would learn independently on their own. They could follow a similar schedule to the blocks 1 through 6 on, we would recommend that they follow the 1 through 6 schedule from a time standpoint, but they complete projects, do work on their own, independent work, prepare for the next 2 days coming in.
And the teachers are available during that time?
Yep.
How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, the teachers would be available. The teachers would be in school.
Okay. And so you have a similar situation in December as well, during the asynchronous times. There's time on Monday and Tuesday when there's asynchronous half the day. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the schedule we have now. I just want to make sure I understand that.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. I did have another question. Will there be, so whenever you go to, the dentist or the eye doctor, wherever like that, you've got to answer a series of questions. Are we doing anything like that? Will there be question or is screening or testing? I didn't hear really much about that. I'm curious.
Take that, Bill. Bill, I can take- we do that. We do that in every office, in every in-person, in every what's now remote situation using pickup patrol for students and staff. So yes.
And Bill, if I could ask, who monitors or who would be planning or monitoring that as the students arrive? Who's monitoring to make sure that it got done? I know that there's a percentage of people who forget to do it or what have you. So who would be monitoring and what would happen if it didn't get done?
So that would be through the nurses and the assistant principals. And we would take a look at that, and then we can print out a list of who does that or who doesn't do that. So then we can identify those students, find out where they are, and then talk to them.
Could you be more specific about finding them and talking to them?
So let's say Bill McGowan comes into school. Parents forget to do the pickup patrol. He's sitting in his first period class. We would take a look at who filled out pickup patrol, notice that he didn't, go to that class and talk to him.
I'm not sure what you mean by talk to him. You would be giving him the pickup patrol questions there
Right,
and
we would,
then?
yeah, correct.
or-
Yeah, so we would ask him those questions. What we did for the SATs is actually, because we didn't want to pull students out of the class while they were taking the test, we actually had that list as the students came into the door, and we also temperature checked them when they came through the building.
Bill, is there a way to do that with them now, whether it's temperature check or not, but having because I'm assuming there'll be just one entrance with the kids coming in, or no?
We can, in the fall when we orientation, we did not have one entrance, but we can restrict it to one entrance because we're going to have a small number of students, so that can be restricted to the one entrance.
Well, I was just thinking that even if we have, the online check-in has to be done by, they say 7 o'clock, I think was what it had to be. So we could print out the list, and then even if we had 2 entrances, and somebody monitoring those, and they can just check people in where we've got such a small number. And if they haven't been checked, that way we're kind of getting them before they get into their cohorts and they're not in the classrooms. I'm just trying to think of a way to get them checked before, God forbid, they're infected and they get into a classroom is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Bill, that is the way, at least a couple of our elementary schools, Leslie just described exactly how it works in those schools. So.
Okay, we did that for the SAT, PSATs. We had the 2 entrances and we had about 250 students, and we did that in about, when they got dropped off from 7:30 to 8 o'clock, they were all in the building by 8 o'clock. So we just need to staff that. We can do that.
Okay. I think that might be a really smart, in my opinion, at least getting them before they get into and I'm sure because there's going to be people who are going to forget in the very beginning anyway. So there's going to be a learning curve. So.
Oh yeah, I'm clearly have to remind, parents because it's been a while. But what I do is when I forget to turn it off after they take the SAT, they notify me pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. I also wanted just to echo what Heidi said in the very beginning, which is I appreciate all the work on this. This is not an easy task, and I appreciate everybody's input on this.
Bill, I have a question for you that I know people will ask is when you get to phase 2, which I assume is sometime during one of those weeks, preferably early in January, but depending on those factors that you laid out, why is Wednesday asynchronous and not remote?
The only thing is that we go remote, if I maintain the 6-period day, then students would be attending classes remotely 6 periods. And, I think we were trying to prevent that much screen time throughout the day as far as changing classes. That's something we can look into. But to maintain the 1 through 6, students would attend all 6 blocks remotely.
Well, they don't have, they don't have any, I mean, they don't have remote time in the rest of the schedule. So you've already reduced the remote time.
Yeah.
I mean, you could quite frankly, here we are doing this here, right? You could do what you've done in December with, you know, certain periods 1 week and the other periods the next week or something like that. Because you've created some additional asynchronous time that I'm not sure you really want to create.
No, yeah, I mean, again, because when they're in person, they'll be asynchronous when they're not. So we can do that.
This is Tony. I would echo that. I asked the question also about the asynchronous, and I like that. Yeah, of adding some remote learning, because you know I have a concern about that really pretty much unsupervised time.
have a
I
question.
would foresee Wednesday becoming a free day.
Okay, no, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Hey, Bill,
Mike, go
I
ahead.
have a question regarding how are you handling those students where the parents are not responding to your survey? Are you making an assumption that the same percentage applies to in-school versus remote?
Right now, given what we have, that would be one way to look at it, and clearly it's probably not the best way, but that's why when we do the survey, we will be asking for the names of the students, so we will be able to identify exactly which students have not participated in the survey and contact those families.
And at the end of the day, even if those families don't respond, are you going to label them as remote? And that's where they're going to be for that semester?
And no, I mean, with our standpoint, it's not so much that they have to choose. I just need to know if they're going to be remote to make sure that there's an option for them. In this case, our goal is to have the students in the building, but at the same time, those students that are remote, we need to provide that opportunity. So it's going to involve some tracking down. And even once we start, you know, especially once we go to phase 2, I'll be working with the assistant principals, monitoring the attendance, and we may have to have some home visits to find out where these students are, because I mean, we're doing that now, but we would have to extend that.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, Leslie, it's Tony.
Go
Heidi?
ahead, Tony. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. I think we went over this very quickly. One thing that is not clear to me about, I think Dr. Lapini mentioned that, and I've heard that a lot of schools are closing down for 6 weeks. Why is our plan better? Why are we able to do this at this time of year? What's different?
So, I'm getting an echo. But when we looked into the numbers, Tony, our initial staff survey didn't ask people to include their name. When we looked at the numbers that we actually got when we put out something defining what we would do, which was right after the governor announced the alternative mode, which is the 7 days and then a test. Our numbers of staff are actually, in terms of people traveling, and I think some of these things have just changed over the last week, right? I think people have modified plans. I do believe we probably in late October had a number of people who were planning to travel, and I do believe that a number of them have changed their mind. And so those numbers were very small, and so we believe that we can address those numbers after the holidays in terms of staff.
Thanks. Heidi, you had something else?
Thanks. So those students who stay remote, I guess if we could touch on that a little bit more. I guess I'm unsure of how they'll be properly educated. Can you go over that for me just a little bit more?
So for phase 1, we still have those 3 days remote. So clearly they'll be doing the remote those 3 days along with everybody else. On the other 2 days, when we have students in the building, they would be working asynchronously currently for phase 1. As we go into phase 2, we will be able to reschedule them with teachers in the building and or teachers that are remote. So we'll be able to build an actual class and ensure that they do have the classroom, the continuation of the remote classes.
With their schedule that they set up. So if they have AP US History, they will be able to continue with AP US History with the same teacher, or that could change through this
That may have to change based on what teachers are available, based on when that AP history class is taught and how many students. I mean, AP history is probably one of those more difficult ones because it's a limited number of students, but we would take a look at the schedule and make every opportunity we can so that student would be able to do AP US History remotely.
So Bill, just to clarify that, because I think it's a really good question, in a course that every ninth grader takes, ninth grade English, you may actually be able to create a section for students who are remote, but in a class that's more specialized, that's more a one offering, you may have to make some modifications to the teacher to create a teacher who might teach that small group of students who are remote, or to the student's schedule in some way. So it'll really depend on, Heidi, it'll be very much hand scheduling, going through each of those kids and figuring out what the appropriate kind of accommodation that Bill and his guidance counselors and his staff can make to create for them a schedule that looks as much like what they wanted to take as possible.
So I get it, and I appreciate that. And I think it's awesome that you guys are trying to be flexible, because we have to be flexible right now. So I think that's great. I just want to ask some additional questions. So are we confident that these students who have special classes that they're taking, are we confident that we are going to be able to offer them a proper education like come January? I guess I'm just wondering if the timing is right to be switching a class mid-trimester on them. I just want to feel comfortable.
I mean, switching a class, I mean, you know, in this case, it could be switching the teacher or moving a class, but I mean, we do that now. I mean, sometimes we have to do it because of staffing needs and student needs. So it's not something that doesn't occur. It doesn't occur regularly, but we do it even in a regular school year, based on different trimesters, based on students passing a class or students not passing a class. We do reschedule each trimester and move students around. And some students may come to us and want to reschedule too. So it's something that we typically do. And sometimes it's more difficult because it involves a lot of moving pieces, but in most cases, we've been able to do it successfully.
But Bill, to the question, because it's a good one, if you get the data that you need, you wouldn't wait till January to do this. You'd do it when you started phase one at the beginning of the trimester.
Yeah, I will have, I mean, this survey will, you know, get out probably before the end of this week or early next week, and have those results before the trimester 2 even begins, and we can take a look at it. So yeah, well, I'm not going to wait till January to get this information out. It's going to be critical that once we, you know, after tonight, hopefully everything's okay for us to move ahead to finalize that survey, get that survey out, give parents and families time to complete it, but get that information back very soon.
I just have a question. So say I'm in morning on Monday. I go in school Monday morning. Monday afternoon, what am I doing?
You'll be doing asynchronous work for classes 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so in front of a teacher like we've been doing now.
No, this would be independent. This would not be in front of a teacher.
Okay, that's independent. Okay. So what we're saying is then they'll be in front of teachers only once a week.
No, because they'll be in school 2 days a week. In the morning, on Monday morning, for example, A through L will be in front of the teacher blocks 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
Tuesday, they'll be in front of a teacher for blocks 4, 5, 6.
Right. Okay, so that means they're in a classroom with the teacher for one of their classes, like one full day,
It's
correct?
gonna, these models, because we're splitting them up, alphabetically, whether it's this split or the different split, typically it's gonna take 2 days to cover a full schedule.
Okay,
And
All
that's
right.
that's where the academic, when I showed you that little grid, that's where the academic piece comes
Goes
down
down.
a bit because of the hybrid model. And now
Right.
it's a bit longer.
Okay, and so then when everybody's doing Thursday and Friday, are we back to what we're doing now, Thursday and Friday, or are you on your own again?
So
You know what I
right
mean? Yeah, I'm confused.
for phase one, Monday, Tuesday, in class, the days you'll be in class and or asynchronous, but then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be remote in front of a teacher the way it is now.
Okay, all right,
When we
Okay.
move to phase two, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you'll be in front of a teacher some of the time, but asynchronous the other time. But then based on the recommendation tonight, that Wednesday will be remote, following a schedule.
okay. All right, thanks. All right. I was just a little slow tonight, sorry.
So actually,
It's not like there's a lot going on or anything. All
um,
right, thanks, Bill. Tony?
yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I had it straight in my head until if I were to put it in my own way, the phase one is 2 half-days in person, 2 half-days asynchronous, and 3 days remote learning like we have now.
Yes.
That equals 5 days.
Yeah.
In January, I think what we have is 4 half-days in person, 4 half-days asynchronous, and 1 full day asynchronous. Is that right?
That one full.
Sorry?
So we would have 4 half-days in person, is asynchronous, but then that Wednesday would be a full day remote. Synchronously.
Okay.
Any other questions? Heidi, hi.
Hi. Okay, if we could touch base again about some of the classes. Principal McGowan, you had mentioned that some may be on Zoom, or that the teachers would be teaching remotely while the kids are in class. And I understand there'll be situations where that may happen. It didn't sound like you would be getting substitutes for those classrooms. So I'm just curious what staff you would be utilizing in order to fill in for those teachers who would be teaching remotely for those classes.
So it would be common. So we got 2 options. And what we did for the orientation, I do ask teachers that they've got a free block to cover those classes. And based on that, we'll get that information out early. So we'll have a plan to cover those classes with current teachers in the building. And or if I need to, I will advertise for subs, and we can bring in subs to cover those classes. And again, if it's just a small number of classes, I myself can cover a class. I have the administrators that can cover a class. So between the administrators and teachers that volunteer to cover the classes and are available, we do that. And we also may need subs.
Okay. And do we have any idea approximately how many classes that might be?
No, because even though the teachers do have accommodations, some of those teachers were able to change the days that they could not be in the building, so they were in the building on those in-person days. So if I go back to the fall, I believe as far as the teachers that could not come in that we had a cover for was about 8 or 9 based on a given day.
Thank you. I I do have another question, if I might, and this is our
All right,
time, right?
limit.
I hope you don't mind if we have a limit on our questions, but
No.
I do have a question because I know Fresh STEM, for example, is done, the classes are done alphabetically. And so we're talking, oh wait, Fresh STEM will be done for second trimester, right? So that won't be an issue with classes being larger, or am I?
No, so we've looked at the split, and there are a few classes, majority of classes are 13 students or less based on the alphabet split.
Okay.
There are about 6 to 8 classes that we've identified that have 14 or more. We will look into those classes specifically to see if we can fit the larger number of students. If not, those classrooms would have to be moved to a larger classroom.
Okay, cafeteria, library somewhere.
Yep.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Anybody else before we open it up to public comment? No? All right. Rhonda, you're up.
Okay, we just want to remind people of public comment procedures. We just want to remind you all that, board policy is comments. This is for the in-person plan only. They're going to allow a maximum of 15 minutes for public comment. The board vote will be required to extend it beyond 15 minutes. They're going to allow up to 3 minutes per individual, but you do not need to take the entire 3 minutes. Public comments on other agenda items or upon any other matter of public concern directly relating to the school district's policies, programs, and operations will be heard under a separate public comment that is scheduled later in the meeting. Comments, including complaints regarding individual employees or individual students, be directed to the superintendent in accord with the complaint and grievance resolution processes set forth in school board policies KE and KEB. Members of the board are without authority to act independently as individuals in official matters. Thus, in most instances, any board response will be deferred pending consideration by the full board. And just a reminder that the board desires that all speakers strive to adhere to ordinary norms of decorum and civility. So we will open up public comment. Once I can get back
And
to.
Rhonda, am I correct? I just want to make sure on that first one, the board can vote to extend the public comment period beyond 15 minutes.
Correct, right. So we're going to do it by raising your hand in the chat feature or in the Zoom. Well, I'm not sure how I can get there while doing a screen share. So I'm going to stop screen sharing.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we do have a list here. We also want to remind people that when we give you the permission to speak, we need you to state your full name for the record, your address, and your affiliation with the school, whether you're a parent, a community member, or a staff person, or any other relationship you have with the school. I have someone named Kelly.
Hi, this is Kelly Huber. I have a nephew that goes to Winnacunnet High School. And I'm actually calling in because I just want to say that I think the principal has done a great job putting this into place. I just have a question. So when they start the in-person in December, is it December 7th they're starting?
Kelly, could you provide us with your address?
Yeah, it's 96 Farm Lane, Seabrook, New Hampshire, 03874.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So they're starting December 7th,
Yes,
and that's twice a week.
yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. I started the meeting late.
that's okay.
And then, so will the parents get notification on this?
Yes,
Okay, and they'll get it by mail?
yes.
Okay, so they're gonna start twice a week, starting December 7th, and then in January, are they gonna review it for 4 days a week?
Go ahead, Bill. Yeah, yes. I'm just gonna keep saying yes, Kelly. Yep,
And that's okay. No, I'm taking notes for my sister because she wasn't able to call in.
no
Yeah.
problem.
That's okay. So it's 4 days a week because my nephew David, he's a
The goal,
freshman.
the goal is to go 4 days a week. The actual start date has yet to be determined.
Oh, okay. All right. So right now it's as of December 7th.
Correct.
Yes.
All right. And they were able to do December 7th because they had no holiday travel. Or limited, should I say?
It wasn't the only factor. There were other ones, correct, Bill?
I mean, basically, we can start December 7th because, again, we can meet the needs of the staff and students, even if some staff and students travel.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that the parents were going to get notifications out because I took notes, but I just want to make.
I have the next person is James Sununu. Mr. Sununu, if you could just provide your name and address and affiliation with the school.
Yes, James Sununu, 12 Evergreen Drive in Northampton. I'm a parent of two Winnacunnet high school students. First, I have a question about how this plan was developed. I'd like to know if, I've looked at a number of the plans that have gone on at the other high schools. I'm going to point out Salem as an example because it's the same size school as we have. It's the same or even fewer staff than we have. It's a similar building to what we have. They spend far less money than we do, and yet they have been able to open the school successfully since September, fully 5 days a week with students every single day, and they have successfully kept it open. They've had cases where they've been able to manage those cases that have cropped up in the school and continue to keep the school open. And I look at us where we have had this in the fall, this continued remote learning. They published a district-wide plan in July. They published a high school-wide plan in late July, and they have successfully opened the school full-time and kept it open. I want to know if anyone involved in developing this plan reached out to Salem or any other school district to discuss their plans where they successfully reopened, to get feedback from them on what was working, what was not working, and how we can manage to do the same. Anyone? Did anyone reach out to another school district that was doing this successfully to get input?
Principal McGowan, would you take that up?
We have spoken to Salem. I've also looked into Pinkerton and Wyndham, so we have looked at other schools.
Okay, then I think every parent in this district deserves to know why these schools can successfully develop and execute on a plan, and we cannot. We're sitting here going to a 1 day a week in-person model in December and talking about doing something that's 2 days a week in January. I think what you need to do is go back to the drawing, is go forward with this plan on December 7th, but go back to the drawing board and figure out a plan to get this building open full-time in January, because it can be done and it can be done successfully. And parents are sitting out here wondering, why can other schools do what our school can't? We spend tons of money here. We have tons of staff members. We have students who are suffering. And yet we sit here and, we're supposed to be grateful for these crumbs. That's how these parents feel. That's how I feel. And I just don't understand why other school districts can do something and we sit here 7-8 months into this. We don't even have a plan to open our building. Thank you.
Excuse me, James. Thank you for I appreciate it. But we're trying to stick to the comments on this plan moving forward.
I am commenting on this plan because my comment is about phase 2 of this plan.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I have Andy Wallace. Mr. Wallace, if you could just state your name and your affiliation, your address and affiliation with the school.
Good evening, folks. My name is Andrew Wallace. I'm a teacher at the high school, and I'm the president of Seacoast Education Association. And I don't live in the district, but with your permission, I'd like to speak tonight.
Sure.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep. Yes, you can speak. Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, thank you. Like I said, I'm the president of Seacoast Education Association. My name is Andrew Wallace. Thank you for the chance to address the board tonight, and thank you for your work on behalf of students and teachers in SAU 21 in these difficult times. First, we want to recognize that everyone, our students, our communities, and the teachers, staff, and administration are all struggling right now in different ways during another wave of this COVID-19 pandemic. It's more important than ever for all of us to support and empathize with one another. Every day we see tremendous courage and care in our school community. I want to thank our students, our families, and our teachers and staff for your hard work and fortitude over these past months. The hours and hours of preparation and work and grading and homework and parents helping with the homework and reading and life and everything you all do. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate you. When it comes to the plans for in-person learning, SAU 21 teachers and staff who are currently teaching remotely are excited about the prospect of returning to in-person teaching. We teachers and staff have really missed connecting with our students, and we miss the magic and fun and discovery and triumphs that happen in our classrooms during a normal year. We miss our extracurricular activities and our social opportunities that our schools offer students. They positively contribute to students' lives in and outside the classroom. Like students and families, we're looking forward to returning to an in-person teaching and learning in a safe environment. As always, the health and safety of our students, their families, our community, and of course, our fellow teachers, our custodial staff, our administrators, our nurses, paraprofessionals, and food service workers continue to be our top priority. The shocking numbers of new cases in the surging wave of COVID-19 has shattered every record in New Hampshire and throughout the country this week. We have seen a rise in cases and closures in Seacoast schools, including SAU 21. And unfortunately, we've also seen a rise in deaths and hospitalizations again, too. Regardless of how much we want to be done with this illness, COVID-19 isn't done with us yet. So we all have to be vigilant about the necessary safety protocols that must be followed in our schools and in our communities. In our schools, we must maintain proper spacing, wear masks and necessary PPE, wash our hands and clean common spaces. We need to limit schedules and our cohort sizes, and contact trace because the state is no longer doing it. And parents and teachers must fill out the daily screening every day and on time. These protocols will work if followed, but as we know, they're not the whole story. A large high school like Winnacunnet will face additional challenges that many of our other schools do not. The size of the student and staff population makes cohort controls difficult and has always created a particular challenge in scheduling and maintaining proper spaces. This is essential. While many elementary schools have remained open, many more high schools and colleges in the United States and Europe have gone remote as older students transmit and spread the disease more than their younger counterparts. This additional risk doesn't mean we can't succeed with these return to school plans, but it does mean that we also have to understand that all of our actions and decisions in this community will affect the number of infections in schools and potentially put our populations at risk and potentially close our schools. We must be mindful that indoor eating, bars, and indoor sporting events present significant increased risks in transmission. Even our holiday vacation plans, for example, can be a barrier to a safe return to school because of the massive amount of exposure and the risk inherent when we travel or visit with friends and families and returning college students to eat or celebrate indoors. We all have a role to play for our students, and the ability for them to transition to in-person learning depends on our commitment to safety in our community. We mean it when we say we are all in this together. While this year has been incredibly challenging for all of us, I will say it has also been so rewarding. We teachers and staff feel good about doing our best for our students, putting in long hours, providing the best social emotional support, and the best education that we can, and all while adapting on the go. Many of us are also parents ourselves who have been put in difficult situations and had to react to decisions made by surrounding school boards in the various communities in which we live. The situation is incredibly difficult for all of us. We want you to know that we understand your concerns and frustrations, and we share your hopes and excitement for the future. Despite the challenges, teachers and parents and students are all part of the solution, and we're ready to do what's needed. We know you are too. We're in awe of the resilience that our schools and community have continually displayed together in facing the challenges of this school year, and we look forward to our success together in SAU 21.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to have to cut it, Andrew. I'm sorry. We've got to try and keep to our 3-minute. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I have someone by the name of Colby Patalis. If this is, I don't know if it's Mr. or Mrs. Patalis, if you could provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Hi, yeah, I'm Colby Patalis. I am the senior class president at Winnacunnet. I live in Hampton, and my address is 2 Carolan Ave in Hampton. So I would just like to express my gratitude for allowing me to take up some of your time. And obviously I'm here to discuss some of the concerns regarding our virtual learning and the new plan to go back. I simply ask you to consider what is our best option, but I firmly believe that online school is not the best one. I understand some students are not comfortable with returning in person. Therefore, I'm glad that there'll be a choice to be a remote or in-person model. As Mr. McGowan previously mentioned, a hybrid model will boost students' social and emotional well-being. You have all heard about the struggles with mental health because of virtual learning, so I won't elaborate. However, I want to remind you that upon returning from the Italy trip, our small group did remote learning, excuse me, while the rest of the school was still in person. This demonstrates that it is possible to have some kids be in school while some are at home. Lastly, I would like to applaud and thank all the board members, administrators, teachers, community members, and others who have dedicated their time and energy into helping our students with our school plans, whether it's in person or remote. Thank you so much, and I hope you vote to send us back.
Thanks, Colby.
Thank you, Colby.
I have somebody, the name that's appearing is Jen Kimball. Ms. Kimball, if you could provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Hi, yes, my name is Jennifer Kimball. I live at 4 Pine Road in Hampton, New Hampshire. I have a freshman and a junior at the high school. I just had a couple of, first of all, I would like to say that I appreciate all the work that everybody's been doing very much. And thank you for the questions. Heidi, I know that you had a lot of similar questions that I had. I did want to ask one, there's 3 questions. One, the Warrior Block, I did not see that. Is the Warrior Block / the advisory going away in this new program? I'll just ask all my questions real quick. There's 2, will the students be able to know who the teachers, like if they decide to stay at home in person or go in person, excuse me, will they know if there will be a change to their teacher before they make that decision? Because again, like I was concerned about some of the upper level classes and the AP classes. And if they find out, for example, that their teacher is going to be teaching remotely and they want to go in person, would they be able to know that before they make the decision? And 3, when will a decision have to be made if our students will be staying in person or going in person or staying home? Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jen. Bill, do you want to answer those or?
I can. Warrior Block, as far as the in-person days, we eliminated Warrior Block in this model to reduce the number of transitions. So when we take a look at having students back in person, we wanted to reduce the number of transitions as far as movement in the building. So we have, at least temporarily for this model, eliminated Warrior Block on the days in person, but on the remote days, it would still be there. Teacher change, we will be working with that as soon as possible. But I do understand the concern, so we will make sure that we have an effort to notify any of those changes. And as far as the in-person remote question, like I had said, I'll get a survey out at the end of this week, early next week. And the hope is to get some preliminary information out before the trimester begins, which is December 7th. It's a short time, but our goal is to continue to move forward with this as quickly and orderly as possible.
Thank you, Bill. Just to piggyback on that, it's for people who have come in late or whatnot. The survey that is going out, it's imperative that all the families get it back to the school as soon as possible. So if you know people who aren't watching tonight, can you let them know that it's imperative us know that moving forward? So I appreciate that. Thanks.
I have another attendee by the name of Pamela Chase. Ms. Chase, if you could please provide your name and address and your affiliation with the school and your comment on the in-person plan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Pam Chase. I have a senior and I live in Hampton. I'm not sure where to go with my question because I have two of them, but I know some of my other fellow parents will probably ask some of the other questions. I appreciate you changing the format because this has to be question and answer because it's rather confusing. The way that I see it when I look at December, Bill, it would be, let me just run through a class. It looks like a student that might be taking calculus, for example, is only getting in-person instruction 1 day a week, if I'm following this correctly. And they're going to school 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 days a week, which is 4.5 hours a week. And then moving into January, they'll be in school 9.5 hours a week. So I couldn't agree more with James Sununu in this plan is not good enough. We need to offer more in classroom instruction. So I would agree that we would like to see something else presented to us for the start of January. I didn't really ask anything that required an answer, but can you confirm that I've read this correctly? That it's, they would only have math 1 time a week in front of the teacher. That I'm using math as an example because that's a building block type class. And that's what concerns me about this plan.
That is correct.
Okay.
I have another username is Talent Rebellion. If you could please provide your name first and foremost and your address and your affiliation with the school, please. Hello.
Good evening. Sorry, I had to unmute there for a moment. This is Mark Royce. I live Mill Road in Hampton.
I'm sorry. Could you provide your name again for me for the record?
Mark Royce.
Mark?
Yes.
Roy, R-O-Y?
R-E-U-S-S.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
have a sophomore and a senior in the school. My question is, why is it that the students who are not in school on a given day could not join by video the classes that are being conducted in the school? Why do they have to be asynchronous? If there's a teacher teaching a class within the building, I believe we have technology in the school now, considering the Remote Learning Academy, to simulcast the class to students who are at home, so that they could actually get more teacher face time in the broader sense than simply the portion where they are in person.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next person. Thank you for your comment. I have Stacy Canali. Stacy, please provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school, please, and direct your comments to the in-person plan.
Sorry. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Stacy Canali, I live at 14 Victoria Drive in Hampton Falls. I have a junior and senior at school. I have sort of a variety of questions, so I'll just go through it if you don't mind. If there's a question in there, just sort of writing it down and trying to answer after the fact. Does that sound like a good approach? I wanted to start.
Public comment section mostly, so yeah, go ahead.
So I wanted to say, thanks, of course, to all of you for your time and energy, and particularly administrators trying to put a plan together for us all. We very much want the kids back in school. So, I'm happy to see a plan. And I understand, I think Tony tried to clarify that while the kids are in school Monday and Tuesday for half a day each, then the Wednesday through Friday, at least for the month of December, will be synchronous remote learning. That's correct? If you could sort of validate that again, that's one question. The second is, I think that maybe Bill Lupini had pointed out that when we move to the January model, that Wednesday would be another opportunity for synchronous remote learning and not asynchronous. And can you confirm that that's the plan for the January model? I did want to just sort of point out that at the very beginning of this presentation, Mr. Lupini or Dr. Lupini had talked about Lincoln Ackerman School and that the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades were all out. And I just sort of thought it came across pretty strong because really, in fact, it was one teacher that crossed all of those grades that came down with COVID and was causing that. It's been really working beautifully, and I have to commend Lincoln Ackerman on that. And what I was going to suggest is that to those questions about arriving at school with the questions being asked about everyone's health, if you're not intending to talk to Beth Rossi about how she's handling it at LAS, that would be a good model to learn from because it's going so smoothly. And then I wanted to sort of ask a couple questions. I'm a little bit worried that a lot of assessment is going to be happening during the at-school days, and I'd love to try and encourage that teaching happens during the in-person days and not assessment as much as possible, because those are such valuable time. The in-person is so valuable to be education oriented and not assessment. So that's just a comment and hope. And then I wondered if you had considered keeping, the students that go in on a given day, like on a Monday, rather than splitting it up to 2 half days and having to clean between block 3 and block 4, why not have a set of students or cohort go in for the full day on Tuesday and then have the evening to fully clean for a second cohort on Tuesday? Did I say that? So one cohort on Monday and one cohort on Tuesday rather than split it up. I realize it sort of gives everybody 2 half days in school, and maybe that's the reason, but it just seems confusing. And I have to agree with Mark Royce, who just called in. I was wondering why we wouldn't be using cameras to allow teachers to, basically allow at-home learners to participate in learning that's happening in person via cameras. I think that's working in other schools and would love to see us explore that here at Winnacunnet, I mean. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Stacy.
Hey, Bill, can I just address the part? So thank you for the comment about Lincoln Ackerman. And I probably didn't make it very well, but what you just said was exactly my point, in that it's not really about a community spread. It can be about one situation that can actually compromise an entire grade level, an entire grade span, or in some cases that we've seen in other districts, an entire school. So absolutely right. We were dealing with a situation that ended up compromising, well, at least part of that. There was another factor that compromised the other grade level. But that is in fact the point, that it isn't about 40 some cases in Hampton right now, which is what I understand the number to be. It's really about the impact that a single case or more can have on a school. And Mr. McGowan, I think you probably want to address the other issues.
With respect to reading the schedule, that is correct. The December schedule and the January, that Wednesday would be fully synchronously remote. Your comment as far as not assessing students on the in days, that's very good. And that's something we will remind teachers that, again, it's more for the instruction and not days to test. We did look at having students in A through L on the full day, M through Z. But in order to control the cohorts and minimize the travel throughout the building, that was why we had split it the way we did into 2 half days, to make sure that we can, if something does come, we can contact trace those cohorts a little bit better than having the students throughout the building on a single given day.
Thanks, Bill. Can we, because I know it's come up a couple of times, and first off, we need to vote as a board to prolong the public comment for longer than 15 minutes. Do I have a motion from anybody on the board to extend it?
I motion to extend public comment.
Anybody second?
Anybody second?
Second it.
All those in favor, roll call.
Yes.
Leslie LaFawn,
Yes.
Heidi Terracina.
Yes.
Heidi, we're voting for the roll call.
You're muted. You're muted, Heidi.
Muted, Heidi. We're doing a roll call, Heidi.
Sorry, my internet connection was just giving me a problem. Yes, to extend.
Okay, Mike Rabideau
Yes.
and Tony Delano.
Yes.
Okay, I have that vote recorded.
Thank you. Can we just address the cameras in the classroom? Oh no, my internet just went down.
Nope, we heard you.
Oh, okay.
So, and again, as Colby Patelis had mentioned, last February when the students did come back from Italy, we did broadcast remotely from the classroom to those students that were remote. For short term, that's possible, but for long term, it's just not sustainable over an extended period of time. And then, you know, teachers can do that if they like to, but we cannot require teachers to do that. And even from the guidance from the New Hampshire Back to School guidance, they even talk about that it's not a good method to do. And again, short term is possible, but we can't sustain that over the long period of time, having teachers be able to work with both students that are in the classroom and remote. And one of the options that we are looking at is what would I need to do to get a second adult in the classroom to work with those students that are remote, and also the teacher can work with the students that are in the class.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may comment, it's a good question that I don't remember the student's name, but it's a great question that he laid out. And I think Mr. McGowan in his presentation talked about, and he talked about it with respect to students who were going to be remote and how those students might actually attend an in-person class in terms of the adults in the room, those kinds of things. It could very well be, because I think they're going to continue to look at this plan, it could very well be that they're able to modify the plan in such a way, or have the kind of staffing in those rooms in such a way that allows what the student asked for right now. Again, this lays out 2 phases of what I think Mr. McGowan and his team would view as a longer plan.
Okay, thank you.
I have somebody here, the only initials I see are MCR. MCR, we're going to allow you to talk, but you first need to please state your name for the record, your address and your affiliation. Oh, I'm sorry, they're gone. They must have changed their mind. I have Sarah Maloney. Sarah, if you can just state your name, confirm that's you, provide your address and your affiliation with the school.
Sure, Sarah Maloney, 20 Goss Road, Northampton, and I have a freshman. So as everybody says, always thank you for your time and effort. You know, I agree with the statements. We all want our students in school 5 days a week. I work in education. I want my students and my family and that I work with in 5 days a week. But because the comment is just to this plan, I do think it's really important you think of sharing your thoughts on what you thought of and what you decided against and why, so that parents don't feel like it was never thought of or ignored. Because I know I thought, well, why half days? Why not full days? Then quickly I reminded myself you'd have to feed students, which becomes more challenging in the transition of feeding students. So but I don't know that everybody thinks of all those things. So I think it's really important to give as much information as you can on what you decided against and why. My second comment or question that you could answer even another time is, will office hours still be offered? And then what is the timeline? So this is the next step forward, and it's taken a trimester to get to this next step forward. So what is the timeline for your hopes for reassessing to get students even in more? Because I don't want it to be another trimester and the year be gone. But again, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we want to go to the next one, or do we want to answer that? Like office hours, they'll still be available.
Office hours will still be available on the remote days. And the other thing, actually, I was reminded of, as far as, keeping the students A through L on a Monday, M through Z on Tuesday, it also would impact students attending SST.
Gotcha.
And the
Thank
lunch
you.
comment, Bill, was a,
Yep.
I saw both of us kind of going like this. That was absolutely part of the consideration.
Yeah.
I have another attendee. I'm sorry, Kathleen, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name. I'm just going to give you permission to talk and let you provide us with your name and address and affiliation with the school. I'll spell it. The last name is Szibdat. First name is Kathleen. Are you still requesting to provide a comment?
Yes.
Okay, could you provide us with your name and address and your affiliation with the school?
Yes, my name is Kathleen Szibdat. I live at 9 Downer Drive. My children have their father's name. I didn't want to change my name to Karnasevitz.
Fine.
So that's their last name.
If you just want to provide your comments.
Okay. As I said, I have twins that are seniors at Winnacunnet. I can't tell you how helpful the school board and the teachers have been to our family in the past year, between the first closing, the summer session, the session now. And I really think it's quite commendable how hard everyone is really working in this community. I noticed the fatigue that all the teachers have, but they still keep going. They still keep reaching out. And I think that says a lot about your faculty. However, we are dealing with teenagers who think the world revolves around them and that nothing will ever happen to them either. I remember what it was like to be 17, and you just do not understand masks, people getting sick, what COVID can do, and that it's never going to happen to you. So I was just wondering if anyone is looking into that scenario for the school.
I'm not sure if this answers your question, but we've obviously have these same guidelines and rules in place in our elementary and middle schools. And I will say to the person, our principals have reported that the wearing of masks, the following of social distancing, those kinds of things, people have done to the nth degree in terms of reminding one another as students that these are the rules, this is what allows us to continue to be in school. I've just heard that over and over again. I've actually heard it from colleagues from other SAUs and school districts, but particularly among our principals as well. There's been very little to no sort of not following of the guidelines that everybody, I think, knows allow us to continue to be there. And I would absolutely expect that of our high school students as well.
We have another attendee. The name is Lainey Parrott. Lainey, it's coming up and telling me that you, it's not available to let you talk because you're on an older version of Zoom. I'm going to have to promote you as a panelist. Hi, Lainey, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Very faintly. Can you speak a little closer to your microphone?
Yes, I can try speaking up. Can you hear me now?
A little better. We need your name, address, and your affiliation with the school, and maybe just a little bit louder.
Okay, I apologize. I'm on my school Chromebook. My name is Lainey Parrott. I live at 2 Garrett Drive. I'm a current senior at Winnacunnet. I would just like for any students that are listening now, I know the student council group chat is talking right now. A lot of students are really confused about what the schedule would look like on those off days, the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whether we would be having 3 classes with the current 75-minute schedule or having the shorter classes, what we would have on the Monday and Tuesday, which Mr. McGowan touched on. And then I'd also just like to point out just how other schools are closing right now due to cases rising. And just if we went back to school, I would hope that the school would make, obviously masks would be required, but I think there should be some type of protocol for students that decide not to wear a mask or to take it off because it's that's a risk to public health and everyone that tries to go to the school. Definitely like CDC guideline masks was what I would like to see the school, which I assume they would do, but just to have a way to just like a dress code violation. I think it's just such a serious thing, and I know some students are, whether they're anti-mask or don't care to wear it. I just think that's so important for the staff to encourage. And I just also like to point out how, like Colby Patalis said, like what would happen if a teacher decides not to come in because they can't come in during that day and you have their class, whether they're able to call the class via Zoom and we pull down the presenter, the board or whatever, and we can call via Zoom to that teacher or through Google Meet. And if every student would be required to bring their Chromebooks, I think that can still work. I think students can be able to work from home online and connect to a class while that class is happening in public. I think it's very possible, and I've seen that's apparently what Portsmouth High School is doing as well. So I just thought those should be ideas to be entertained. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill, do you want to just touch on that Wednesday to Friday and just reiterate?
Yes. So on the 3 days, the 3 remote days, Wednesday through Friday, would be the current, students would follow the current schedule they have now. So it would be the 3 75-minute periods on those alternating days.
Thank you. And as far as masks go, I mean, we're making it mandatory that masks be worn in the schools, and therefore they will be mandatory to wear. Both staff, students,
Yeah,
in fact.
mandatory for staff and students. And, when we've had the students in the building, we've had no issues. And, clearly the staff recognizes the importance of that. So they will remind students. And if a student refuses to, they'll be dealing with the assistant principals and discipline issues. So it clearly is something that we have to take very serious because it is serious.
Great, thank you.
I have Lynn. Lynn, if you could please state your name and address, and I'm also going to need to promote you in as a panelist. So your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
My name is Lynn Rademacher. I'm at 18 Falcone Circle in Hampton, New Hampshire. I'm just going back to what James Sununu said earlier. I'm not really understanding still why the board admin is not looking to other school districts that have successfully had students in full-time. You're trying to do this on your own, yet you have many models surrounding you in the area that have successfully achieved getting kids back to school. That's my first point. You dismissed James Sununu earlier, so I want to revisit that point. Secondly, on a related note, you spent a few minutes, everybody, perseverating over screening kids and this, that, and the other thing. why aren't you looking to local models who are successfully doing this? For example, SAU 90, we fill out our screeners every morning. The kids have to fill out the screenings. We know exactly who hasn't filled out their health screening, and we stand at the door and we say, hey, Susie, come with me. You got to go see the nurse. We've got to check you before you're allowed in the building. I'm just not sure why you're obsessing over these things that other people have successfully implemented. Thirdly, I'm dumbfounded and enraged. I need clarification on this. How is it that teaching to students in class and remote not sustainable? That makes zero sense to someone like me who does this every single day, block after block after block. I'll have 4 or 5 kids in my classroom from the same cohort, and I'll have 2 kids on a screen, or it flip-flops the next block. So I'm quite curious why that isn't sustainable or not achievable. That makes zero sense, absolutely zero sense, especially with how familiar we all are with technology these days. So I really want these questions answered. I'm a teacher, I know this can work. And lastly, my last comment to everybody obsessing over masks, I'm at the K-2 school. 5, 6, and 7-year-olds obediently keeping their masks on all day long, even at recess. So the fact that you would question intelligent high school students if they won't keep their masks on is just ridiculous to me. But I really would like James Sununu's plan. Why aren't you looking to Salem? And why is teaching to students in class and remote not sustainable? And I do not care that teachers don't want to do it or cannot be asked to do it. That is an unacceptable answer to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I think on that note, I can say it again too, that as Mr. McGowan said, they did look at different schools and different models, correct? It's not like we've sat here and done, not done the research and looked. So it has been looked at.
That's correct.
Principal McGowan, are you able to touch on the question about, I would be curious as well about the technology piece, if there are students at home or there are kids in the class, maybe just touching on that a little bit more about teachers being able to do both?
Again, I mean, it can be done. It's not very effective going back and forth. And right now, teachers can do it if they want, but I cannot require teachers to do it. So we're going to look at other ways that are more effective that I pointed out, and make sure, again, our goal is to make sure that even if those students are remote, they are provided that opportunity.
Thank you.
I have I've got several hands still going up. Rita Neidem. Ms. Neidem, if you could provide your name, address, and your affiliation with the school.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name's Rita Neidem. I have a junior at Winnacunnet. I live in Exeter, New Hampshire. Her father lives in Hampton Falls. I agree with the woman who just called, Ann Sununu. PCA in Dover is a kindergarten through high school, and they're in class in person every single day. And I can't believe that all this time has gone by. Kids are they're bored out of their minds, literally. And all this time has passed. The thing that gets me the most as I age is people just don't care like they used to. If you care, you will figure out a plan in person. You have the gymnasium. You could space it out there.
Excuse me, Rita, we need to stick to comments on this plan moving forward.
Well, the plan
not what's happened in the past, not what's happened in the past. We're asking for comments on the proposed plan.
But nobody wants the proposed plan. The majority wants the children to go back to school, at least more than what you're offering. That's what I don't think you're caring to hear. Everyone that calls, can't you hear the emotion in their voices? These children want to go back to school. I don't know what you are so afraid of when other schools are running. They are running. The world is running despite COVID. It is running. And if the teachers don't want to teach, find somebody else, replace them.
Thank you.
I have, it's popping up as Lisa Witkowski Photography. Lisa, if you could please provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Hi, it's Lisa Walkowitz, and I'm at 15 Victoria Drive in Hampton Falls, and I have a daughter who's a freshman at the school. I just wanted to touch upon a couple topics. First of all, you know, our kids have been fully remote since the beginning of school, excuse me, has started. Why is it now, coming mid-December, we're coming up with a 4-hour plan a week to get them back in school? When COVID cases are on the rise, the timing just doesn't seem to make sense to me. And to go back to the classrooms where we spoke about having video, so students in the class could attend, and then there could be video for remote students. I'm still not understanding Mr. McGowan saying he cannot force the teachers to do that. What is the reasoning behind it? You know, some of the answers that we're getting are very vague. And I think the parents deserve a little bit more detail to see what's going on here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another person named Jacob Koyman. I think that I'm pronouncing that right. If you could please state your name and address and affiliation with the school, please.
Yes, hello, my name is Jacob Koyman. I live on 32 Mill Road, Northampton. I am a class of 2023 vice president. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you to all of you for formulating a plan for us. I know it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I'd like to thank you just with my own words. And I know you're getting a lot of criticism, and I appreciate that you are still going forward with everything. I do have some concerns with like the cameras within the classroom if it's going in for a day and like students want to stay back even if some students are going in, why we couldn't have those cameras in the classroom while students are also in class. And I understand maybe some teachers might not want to do it, but I know personally I can't risk getting it because if my parents get it, there's a good chance they're probably gonna either kick the bucket and stuff like that. And I don't really need that happening in my family right now. Therefore, if we had the camera in the room, it would really help me. And I know that. And I just want to say thank you again.
Thank you, Jacob.
I have Lori Matamore. I believe I said that right. Lori, if you could please provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Yes, I'm Lori Matamore. I live at 94 Lakeside Road in Hampton. I have a freshman.
Did you?
Freshman again.
I'm sorry.
Lori, you're kind of garbled.
Yeah, good old technology. Lori Matamore, 94 Lakeside Road in Hampton.
I can't hear.
We can't hear you, Lori.
I'm unmuted.
You're very broken up.
Yeah, that's the technology wonder. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me
No.
now?
Vaguely. Lori, you're always welcome to email your comment. I can't hear her.
I can't. Maybe have her try calling later.
Okay. We're going to move on to Tyler Hughes. Tyler, please provide your name, address, and your affiliation with the school.
Good evening, Tyler Hughes of One Downer Drive in Hampton, and I'm calling in tonight as the student body president of Winnacunnet. I'd just like to reiterate some of the points that my peers in student council have already reiterated. And first of all, I want to say that I'm so proud of all the peers that are here tonight, especially the student leaders that have called in. I feel that we have a truly special group. I'd also like to thank the administration, specifically Principal McGowan, Dr. Lupini, and members of the school board for their hard work in creating this plan. I'd like to say that, you know, from what I've heard in my interactions with my constituents, the students, a lot of them do want to go back to school, and I feel that this plan is a great first step to get there. I feel that a phased plan, given the circumstances, is certainly appropriate. And I feel that we should vote in favor of this plan. We pushed for this hybrid plan. Now we have a plan. Let's vote in favor of it, and then we can slowly phase it up as COVID changes, hopefully for the better. But yeah, that's a good first step, and then we can start phasing it up as the conditions allow. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of your hard work again, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thanks.
As of this time, I do not see any other hands raised for public comment.
At this time, I'd like to close the public comment. On behalf of the board, which I'm pretty sure.
We did just get one hand pop up.
Okay, go ahead. We'll take the last one in.
Okay. Looks like David Shepard. Mr. Shepard, if you want to provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Hi, actually, my name is Geraldine Shepard. We're 53 Brown Road in Hampton Falls. A quick comment. I know that lots of parents have called in about having the kids interday with the classrooms and the cameras. So I guess my question is, they're currently on a AB schedule. They're on 75-minute classes every other day. So if we scheduled it that on a Monday, A classes, A to L went in, L to Z went on a Tuesday. All of my daughter's teachers are currently using their cameras. The kids are all dialing in. So why would it be any different for them to go full-time 5 days on the existing schedule that they currently have on the 75-minute classes without switching up their schedules at all? The teachers are already in school. They're already dialing in. Those kids who are at home could dial in as they are now. Half the student body can now go to school every single day of the week. The teacher schedules wouldn't have to change, and the student schedules would not have to change. Other schools are doing that model. Is there a reason why we can absolutely not do that model starting December 7th? That's my question.
Thank you. Okay, so is that it, Rhonda?
No, we have several more hands that got raised. I don't know how long you want to do this, if you want to vote for another 15 minutes or what the board wants to do.
Anybody have an idea on the board? I mean, how long you want to take this? Mike, Tony, Heidi, anybody? Heidi, anybody?
I have no problem going another 15 minutes.
I have no problem too. I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to go for another 15 minutes.
Leslie? Leslie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Heidi?
Yes.
Mike Rabideau? Mike Rabideau?
Yes. Yes.
And Tony Delana? Tony Delana?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going another 15 minutes and I will let you know when those 15 minutes are up. We have someone by the name of Molly McKenna. Molly, please provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Hi, my name is Molly McKenna. I live on 56 Schooner Landing in Hampton, New Hampshire, and I'm a senior at Winnacunnet. I just wanted to thank you all for hosting the school board meeting today, just to start off. I do have a few questions about going back to school. I want to know what the procedure would be like if someone gets COVID, and I want to know if a student doesn't feel comfortable going to school, what would that look like for them, and do they have options to stay home? Also, what would the workload look like for students on their days at home? And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Can I just say, just to Bill, I don't know what you want to answer in there, but just let me just say to Molly the issue of if someone contracts COVID, We work with the Department of Health and Human Services. We work with the school nurse. We work with the principal. We make a determination as to who's come in contact with that person. That's why Mr. McGowan described in detail earlier the issue of trying to keep cohorts and contact minimal in the time in the building, which is one of the things that drove them to this 3-period schedule. And then we make a determination as to how much we need to close down as a result. In elementary schools, sometimes it's one class, sometimes it's a grade span, and as you've seen in some other districts, sometimes it's the entirety of the school, and that's all a matter of who's come in contact with who and for how long a period of time. So it's an individual judgment based on the circumstances that are in front of us.
With respect, if a student wants to stay remote, they can stay remote. That's why we'll be sending that survey out to find out who those students are.
Principal McGowan, just off of what you just said, touching off of what you just said, when will parents need to make that commitment as to what they want to do, whether their student will stay remote or would choose hybrid, if in fact hybrid would work to be passed tonight?
I'm going to say my goal would be to have that survey go out, have the results back on November 30th, and make that determination then.
Okay, so parents, once that survey is, if the due date is November 30th, those parents need to be able to make that decision by then. Correct.
That will give me the initial thing, but if a student is, I mean, there's always some flexibility. But again, if a student's remote, they decide to come back in person, that's a little bit easy. And then a student all of a sudden deciding to go remote because once we get some schedule in for that remote learning, it may be difficult to move that student back into the remote learning from the in-person. But to come into the building to those classes, that would be pretty straightforward. It would be more for students in person midstream to go remote as far as what that schedule looks like to provide those classes for them.
Okay, thank you.
I have a Chris Wheeler. Chris, if you could provide your name, address, and affiliation with the school.
Hi, it's Trish Wheeler, 2 Downer Drive in Hampton, New Hampshire. Hello, and thank you for extending the time, and I appreciate all the effort. A couple of things. One was the union member who spoke had carte blanche to share everything that he felt like sharing, and I feel like it was unacceptable to cut off Mr. Sununu the way you did, but let the union member talk about everything that he wanted to talk about. So that was number one. I thought that was unacceptable. Number two, the union saw the plan beforehand because they shared that. I heard Heidi say there's a lot to digest here. So she had never even seen the plan, which is unacceptable as well. I feel like there's a lot of protection for the teachers and accommodations and all of this. And at the end of the day, the student should be number one. And I swear, I don't see it. I don't see it from the teachers union. I don't see it from anything. And I know there are teachers who want to speak out and they can't. So for them, I'm saying some of these teachers who are not doing Room and Zoom might want to step up and say, I can do it now. These children that I've been dealing with are suffering. So I want to do it for them. These are all things that should be addressed and that they can be addressed. And there are teachers that are fighting every day for these students. And I commend them, but there are also students that are there are also teachers that are taking advantage of the system. And I think they need to be called out and I think they need to step up. Thank you. And my husband, I think, has his 3 minutes as well.
Well, no, this is Chris Wheeler, and we have a son who's a sophomore at Winnacunnet. We live at 2 Downer Drive in Hampton. And I guess I do want to go back to the Salem model. You mentioned you looked at it. I'd be interested to understand why you did not want to implement that model. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I believe it's Layla Hussain. If she could please provide her name and address and her affiliation with the school.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
My name is Layla Huston. I live at 27 Reddington Landing, Hampton, New Hampshire. I'm a junior at Winnacunnet, and I'm actually the vice president of the class of 2022. I just wanted to call in to say thank you so much to the school board. The community pushed so hard for months on end, asking for a hybrid plan, and we've finally been given one. And the only thing that's been going on tonight is people saying that it's not good enough. So I would like to say thank you. And when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, any amount of time in the school is more than we can ask for. As a student who hasn't been in over 272 days, 2 days a week in school is all we can ask for. So I would like to say thank you so much for putting in all this hard work for a well thought out hybrid model. And I had one quick question on behalf of the executive council at school of the students. Would there be those 2-week surveys every so often asking how students' mental health is and how school is going, or would those stop once we got back in person?
I'm sorry, my connection went in and out. I missed the end of Layla's.
So, yes, we will continue the surveys because it's something that we probably should have done before we even went to enter this pandemic, to get some baseline data, see where we can still improve. We have areas to improve, so we will conduct those surveys. I just need the student body to let me know when they are surveyed out.
I have a Nicole Wilcox. Nicole, if you could please provide your name and address and your affiliation with the school.
Hi, my name is Nicole Wilcox. Can you hear me? Yes. I live on 32 Presidential Circle in Hampton. I have a sophomore and I have 2 posts that have graduated. I'm also an educator, so I understand the perils and the ins and outs of scheduling and all this. What I am concerned with, and I am teaching in a hybrid model at a middle school, is for those in-person days, which, I am so grateful to get the kids in for anything. But what I am concerned with is you're going to have a lot of kids that are on quarantine, and anyone who's quarantined, and if you have an in-person day and that's their in-person day, say for 2 days, and they miss Monday and Tuesday, and you don't have to answer this now, but it's a tech issue. I don't understand why a camera can't be in the room. I don't know why we can't ask that of the teachers, because if that's in-person learning and that's what they're getting their curriculum, how are they going to receive that curriculum if they miss their in-person learning? And with cases rising or quarantining, that's a really big piece that has to be addressed with technology. And I don't think that can be done with, that can't be done asynchronously if they miss the in-person teach time, which is only going to be 1 day a week for about a month. That's my sort of question comment, something to think about.
Thank you, Nicole.
Is anyone able to comment on that? I had that similar question as well.
I think that's something we need to discuss further after we end the public comment.
Okay.
I have a Peter Sebney. If you could please provide your name and address and your affiliation with the school.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me? This is Peter Sabini. I live on 103 Woodland Road in Northampton, New Hampshire. I'm the dad of twin freshman girls at Winnacunnet. Thank you for everything you've been doing. Some of you may know me. I'm an infectious disease physician and a physician leader in several hospital systems in the area. And this is very difficult and obviously emotionally charged. I just wanted to, first of all, to go back to Nicole's comment. I think that is an extremely valid comment. I think you do have to have live cameras for people on quarantine. I've done a lot of work internationally with folks that have to sort of declare themselves as ill and have to sit out from their unit, if you will. And it's sort of a sad feeling for them. And as the students are already fragile, I think you have to do as much as you can to keep things consistent. So I echo the camera, particularly in people who end up on quarantine. With regards to the hybrid model, I've been very upset, and some of you know this on the board, that the time to go hybrid was in September when the case counts were low. The reason why they didn't was obviously made clear, and I won't go back to that. But I guess my comment would be with regards to the hybrid model, why not entertain the 4-day hybrid model right now in December? Why wait until January? I think that rationale, the rationale of why that was not considered, I think needs to be communicated. And I think Sarah Maloney also made a similar comment. I can certainly understand as an infectious disease doctor with social distancing in the hallways. Yes, you cannot, maybe you are too concerned about having the full student population in at one time, but why not a 4-day hybrid? Because it still allows the social distancing so that you don't have as much of a public health threat within the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
I have a Hannah Christian. Hannah, I'm going to have to promote you as a panelist.
Hi, thank you. My name is Hannah Christian. I live on 14 Penniman Lane, and I'm the president of the class of 2023. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone involved in creating this hybrid plan. This plan is definitely a step in the right direction towards the end goal, which is going back to school full time. And you all have the hardest job right now, and you have to take so many things into consideration, like people's mental well-being, people's emotional well-being. And I just wanted to speak for many of the Winnacunnet students and say thank you for giving this opportunity to us. While several things in this whole entire process since the very beginning have been very challenging, there's been a lot of turmoil and confusion and just arguments with everyone, because everyone has a different opinion on this. I just want to say thank you, and we truly appreciate this opportunity you've given to us. And just as a side note, as Jake Koyman mentioned earlier, the cameras in the classroom would be a fantastic idea, in giving those, giving an opportunity to the people who are doing virtual learning. It would just be great for them to have that link and that connection available to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have someone that's coming up as a Galaxy S10. If you could please provide us your name and address and your affiliation with the school, please.
Yes, hi, my name's Keisha Welch. I live at 10 Deer Crossing in Seabrook, New Hampshire. My daughter is a freshman. My only question is, why are none of these questions being answered? There are parents and there are students asking questions. I thought this panel was supposed to be answering questions of what was presented.
Keisha, this is actually it's public comment. So the fact that we've been answering what we can, I'm going to be thanking the administration for doing such, because it's not what we usually do. It's usually just you make a comment, we take it in, and then we discuss it after the fact. So we've been trying to answer what we can at this point.
So when will we get information on all the questions that were asked?
Good question. I'm assuming we're going to be discussing it after the public discussion is over, correct? Public comment is, we'll be discussing it then. Everybody gets to listen in, and hopefully we can answer what we can, and what we can't, we'll be asking the administration to get us those answers, and hopefully we can get it out to the public as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have a Kelly Parrott. Kelly, if you could please provide us your name and address and affiliation with the school.
Hi, my name is Kelly Parrott, 2 Garrett Drive, Northampton, New Hampshire. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
So there has been a lot of talk tonight about the cameras in the classroom. I understand that there was a memorandum of agreement that was signed September 15th between all the school boards and the teachers union. And item 11 was the item that restricted teachers from requiring to do what they called room and Zoom. I reached out to 2 school board members to ask about this, and they said it was very carefully worded that although they're not required, it's their choice. And I would like to see if we can please ask this to amend this MOA to allow the cameras in the classroom, or survey the teachers to see if they are in agreement to do that, because I think many of these teachers would be amenable to that at this stage in the game. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Leslie, I can address that because it happens in other schools. So as it Kelly, as Kelly put it, it can't be required. And I think Bill may have said this earlier, but teachers can do it. We have situations in other schools similar to what some students, for example, here have asked about in terms of a student who's out or whatever, where that has actually happened in the first trimester at some of the elementary and middle schools where that is the case. And so it is possible where those teachers choose to do that. So it actually, to the point that was made, there's no amendment needed to have that happen. It is allowable, and as I said, some teachers are doing it.
Thank you. I think we're at our 15 minutes, and at this point, I think we need to move on.
We do have one more person with their hand raised. It is somebody that spoke earlier in the meeting, so I don't know if the board wants to do that or they want to just move on.
Board, I will entertain. What do you want to do? Anybody? Anybody?
Yes.
What do you want to do, Tony?
One more comment? Yes.
All right. Okay, this is the last comment. Agreed?
Yes.
It looks like it's Pam Chase. Pam, if it's still Pam Chase, just identify yourself, your name and address, and your affiliation with the school.
Hi, Pam Chase. I am a senior and I live in Hampton. I just wanted to remind Mr. Wallace and any of the staff that might be listening in on this board meeting that we're a community that has come together. We, the parents and the taxpayers, we showed up for you in your 4-year contract. We've been patient and we're asking our board, our staff to come together, show up, allow us room to Zoom. Don't make it arbitrary side. Let's do what's in the best interest of the student. We showed up for you. We voted in your contract.
Okay.
We now need you to show up for us.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you. All righty, we're going to move on. It's now end of public discussion. At this point, I'm going to make a point of just saying thank you to everyone who called in, gave us ideas, gave us opinions. I personally want to thank the students that called in. You are above and beyond respectful and kind, and know that we are working 110% for you, and I think you know that. So again, thank you for everyone for calling, and we are listening and we are working as hard as we can, and I hope you all do understand that. So all right, so we're going to move on to discussing this. Anybody else on the board? How do we want to go forward with this?
So we've given you a sample motion, but there may be other discussion, and so we certainly have additional board discussion, and then we recommended an action item to move forward. I think Mr. McGowan's proposed at least one that I've noted change to the plan in this discussion, and that was adding that Wednesday in phase 2 that would be synchronous instead of asynchronous. But that's normally how we would proceed.
Okay, perfect. Is there any more discussion or thoughts from the board? Or are we ready to make a motion on the proposal? Anyone?
Well, Leslie, it's Tony.
Hi.
I had a question. So we're going to vote on this plan as it stands now. Simple question. Yes. I've heard a lot of things talked about tonight, and what is the, I don't know what the mechanism is to ask for minimizing asynchronous and accelerating things more. I mean, there's some things that stood out to me tonight. We're going to vote on this plan as is. That's my question. I know we talked about some of that asynchronous changing. So my question is, what is the mechanism to
Make changes or
make changes? Or, I heard some good points about what are other school districts doing. I mean, I don't have a report on that. I don't know. I guess that's my question is we're going to vote on this, and then moving forward, how do we consider some of these other elements, the cameras, et cetera?
Right. Good question. I guess one possibility is it possible to vote on the first, phase 1 and then be open to changes into phase 2? Is that something that would be?
You could certainly do that. I mean, the answer, Bill, I don't know if Bill answered this earlier. There was a question about moving to phase 2 to start. And I believe what Bill said earlier in his presentation is he faces through the end of December. And I know people don't want to talk about FFCRA anymore, neither do I. But he faces staffing issues through the end of December with that. And that's one of the reasons for the 2-phase approach. You could adopt phase 1 and ask the administration to come back and explore some of these other issues. I think the better you could be in terms of defining what your questions were, the better Bill and his team would be able to present. But by moving forward with phase 1, I will tell you, I think the downside with that, and this is at least in part to prove that I was paying attention, Bill, is that if Bill can't go to those students who want to stay remote and say, here are your options schedule-wise when we move to phase 2, because he doesn't know that we're moving to phase 2.
Gotcha.
That would present some problems for those people in terms of making some choices. Heidi's question about their schedules and singletons and things like that, it could present some problems for them. But it can be done. I think Bill would have to make some assumptions in terms of his conversations with those families, but it could be done.
I think too, maybe moving, another option is, I mean, as in everything in today's world, we could approve what was presented with the changes of the Wednesday. We could approve that. Everything is going to be subject to change depending on where the world is.
That's
so
true.
Moving forward to something, so that we have a plan that can always, nothing's in rock solid right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer Tony's question. I think another way to approach it, Tony, might be to say, okay, so we're going to approve phase 1 and phase 2. Can we hear a little bit more in detail about what might come next and what your timeline is on that? That would be a very fair question and could take into account some of the comments that were made tonight.
I mean, our goal is to get students back into the building as much as we can. I mean, we have looked at other school districts, and each school district is different. But some of the other schools are doing are similar to what we're doing, and maybe in a different format. But our goal is to provide as much in person with the students, with the constraints that we currently have at Winnacunnet High School, at least through December, and then expand on that.
Bill, can I just say, and I don't want to quote about a plan that I haven't read in a while, but my if we want to talk about what other schools are doing, we've said a number of times that until recently, there were no other schools in the southeastern part, no other high schools in the southeastern part of the state that were in person. None, right? Other than Rochester, Spalding. More recently, Sanborn is back in one form or another, but the rest are not. And even Portsmouth, which had a quasi-hybrid model. There are other schools, I've taken a look at some of them that were hybrid. Some of those have had time in, time out. One of those that was brought to our attention, Pinkerton, has gone 6 weeks remote for the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. There are some schools that are in person, and size matters here. James brought that up, and I don't know the size of all these high schools, but size matters in terms of what you can do. And the other thing that matters is we know that there are some high schools that made differing assumptions about social distancing. There are schools that made an assumption of 3 feet, not 6 feet. Well, 6 feet is what's recommended by the CDC, by DHHS, right? And so some schools didn't use that. They used a small, and so they can put more students in a classroom. That enables them to make that work better. Some of them did other things to compensate for that. But every plan is not just a matter of looking at it on the surface. It's a matter of digging into what kinds of assumptions did they make about social distancing and those kinds of things, and then what does that actually look like? And I know, Bill, I know they looked at Salem after that information was given to them. It's been quite a while since I looked at that sort of plan. But the high school team, we can work with them to certainly come back with some additional exploration of what other plans look like. It's something we've done constantly through the fall. So Tony, I'm trying to guess at what some possible answers to your question might be. So I'm going to stop now.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. There we go.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was out for a second. Go ahead, Heidi.
Yeah, so, being completely honest with you here, I'm scared with the numbers increasing. I'm scared that all the schools are closing down. We're thinking of opening up. I think our students need to be number one, and we need to think of them, and I know they want to be in school. So I'm very conflicted. My question is, at what point, if we were to approve this, at what point do we say, okay, there's too many classes that have had to quarantine, or what, at what point are we determining that, okay, at this point we need to go back to virtual learning until the numbers drop, or we feel it's safer to start up again? I mean, is it where we have 50% of our students, out? I'm just curious what our guideline is going to be.
It's a great question that Dr. Eric Killian and I in particular talk about every day, because there is no there is no one answer. I'll use the example again of the Hampton Falls, because it's one of the situations we've dealt with where, even though it was a limited number of cases, it did result in, right, the school. And so you get to a certain point in your assessment, and the answer is we do this, right? We work with DHHS, our nurse, our principal, and we make these assessments. And you look at what is the part of your student population that's been impacted, and then does it still make sense to continue to conduct in person, right? And is it safe to continue to conduct in person? There are certain, I mean, we said early on, you remember early on in the plan, if we don't have a nurse in, for example, we're on a remote day, right? So that's an easy one. I'm not going to look at Dr. Eric Killian when I go easy. That's a simpler one. But who are the teachers? What numbers of kids have they come in contact with? All those kinds of things are the pieces that we go through with the principal, the nurse, DHHS, and make that determination, Heidi. And it's a similar set of guidance on each one, but it's a slightly different conversation each time, because the players and who they may come in contact with are different in each situation. If that makes any sense at all, and I hope it did.
No, thank you.
Leslie?
Yes, Michael.
The way I look at this is a plan to get the students back into school. It's a responsible plan. And, you know, I understand Heidi's concerns. I have the same concerns, obviously. And to compare apples to apples, whether it's Sanborn and whether it's Salem, we're not all the same. It's not a cookie cutter solution. And I think that based on what I heard throughout the summer being on the back to school committee, there were a lot of considerations taken in why they did it at the beginning of school and why they're doing it now. So I just find it to be a very responsible approach, and that's what I have to say about it, I guess.
Thank you. Would you care to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the plan as presented by Principal McGowan for the next trimester. Next 2 trimesters, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Any other discussion? All right, then I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. The motion being, so do you want the motion to read as it was written, the administration will present recommendations regarding steps to ensure? No.
No.
Never mind, that's not it. Motion to accept the, yeah, what you did. Never mind.
So that is the motion, motion to accept the administration's recommendation for student instruction beginning with the second trimester beginning Monday, December 7th, 2020. Is that correct, or was it something different?
No, that was
correct.
it.
That's correct. Okay. And Mike Rabideau made that motion, and Tony
Yes.
offered the second.
Mhm.
Okay, Heidi Teresina. Heidi Teresina.
Why does my name get called first?
Sorry.
I am voting for the students tonight. I am fearful, but I am voting for the students. I will say yes.
Leslie LaFond.
I echo Heidi. I say yes, move forward. Be safe, guys.
Mike Rabideau.
Yes.
And Tony Delano. Tony Delano.
Yes, and same comment as Heidi. But I also just want to reiterate with the caveats that I do think we need to look into these things and have maybe some more transparency, possibly. The several of the issues, the camera, I mentioned them already. I don't need to mention them again, but and I was struck by the infectious disease expert suggesting we ought to be a little more aggressive. I share the same concerns, but that's in my opinion, that's got to be a science-based argument. And so I want us to look harder at this, but I think it's a good plan. One of the students at the end, I forget the name, I'm sorry, said it very well. It's a good plan to get us back in, and I appreciate all the efforts. So I'm voting yes. Thank you.
Okay, I have that vote recorded. Motion passed 4-0.
Thank you. Again, Bill McGowan, thank you so much to you and your team for presenting this. Thank you to you and Dr. Lupini for answering questions when, yes, it's not what we're supposed to be doing and whatnot, but I really felt we needed to. That's what the parents needed. They needed to get some reassurance. And I know there are still unanswered questions, and to the public who are unhappy that we didn't answer them, we want to be able to come to you with what we know. And so therefore we'll look into those and get back to everybody. So
Leslie, may I say a word about just coming up in December and what I know is another important topic while our numbers are dropping off here. So I sent to the board the other day a draft of the winter athletic guidelines that Mr.
Yes.
Abood put together based on conversations with Division I athletic directors. I think, Mr. McGowan, correct me where I might overstep here, but I think if Mr. Aboud were here, he would say the winter is shaping up for a number of reasons as a much more difficult endeavor than fall was, but there's an intent to try to move forward within some guidelines in sports where we have places to play and where we can put safe conditions in place. And Mr. Aboud will be here in December to discuss those with the board.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody else want to say anything, or are we ready to go ahead and move on? Okay, so we're gonna move on. Do we go into?
The next two items on the agenda, Leslie, are retirements and a case manager position, both of which will be discussed in non-public.
Okay, so then we have, do we go to 7A?
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
It would just be on other agenda items. It would no longer be on the plan.
Back to school plan. Okay, so we have public comment on agenda items other than the in-school plan. So it has to stay, it has to be nothing on the in-school plan at this point. So do we have any public comment?
I'm not seeing any, I don't see any hands raised on this portion for this public comment.
Okay. Seeing none, then we should go into non-public, correct?
Yep.
So
I'll make the motion to go into non-public under RSA 91-A:3A-B.
Second.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Heidi. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Tony Delano.
Yes.
Mike Rabideau.
Yes.
Leslie LaPond.
Yes.
And Heidi Terracina.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded. The board is going to go into a non-public session. You guys should have received another invite. I'm going to let Dr. Hobbs take over from here.
Your board members should have received a calendar invite with a non-public, which I'll start up right now. We'll run 2 meetings simultaneously and come back to this one. See you over there.
Rhonda, can we draw straws next time?
Are you able to get into the non-public meeting?
I thought I was in the non-public.
No, this is still the public.
Oh, I thought I logged out. Okay, I'll be back.
Okay.
All right, we all back?
Somebody, oh, Mike
Mike.
Rabideau.
Bill McGowan too.
Here he comes. Okay.
There he is. Okay, so now we need the motion to come out of non-public.
Yes.
Pick one, guys.
I'll make the motion to come out of non-public.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Heidi. All those in favor, roll call.
Tony Delano,
Yep.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
Leslie LaFond,
Yes.
Heidi Terracina.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded.
Thank you. At this time, I would like a motion on our retirements. Would somebody like to make, let's do them one at a time.
All right. I make the motion to accept the retirement of Nancy Travers with regrets.
Second.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Thank you for her years of service. So,
Yes. Very much.
Tony Delano,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
Leslie LaFond,
yes.
and Heidi Terracina.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded.
Thank you. Oh, Heidi, you're muted.
Sorry,
It's okay. Oh, okay. Does anybody want to make a motion on the second retirement?
I can motion on the second retirement to accept the retirement of Linda Osborne. I'm sorry, I don't have the wording right in front of me.
Yeah, effective June 30th.
Effective June 30th, 2021.
Right, and a second.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Tony Delano,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
Leslie LaFond,
Yes.
and Heidi Terracina.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded.
Perfect. And then can I have a motion on the case manager position?
I'll make the motion to recommend the case manager position be filled for the coming school year.
Okay. Do we want to put the money, the amount in, Mike, or no?
I don't think we actually have to, right?
Okay.
Do we not want that in the motion? It's for the remaining school year, correct?
Okay, it's for the remaining school year. I'm sorry.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Heidi.
Tony Delano,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
Leslie LaFond,
Yes.
and Heidi Terracina.
Yes.
I have
Thank
that
you.
vote recorded.
Thank you, Rhonda. So the last thing on our agenda is our next meeting dates. So we have a Winnacunnet BudCom meeting Wednesday, December 2nd at 6 p.m. Wednesday, December 9th at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, December 15th at 6 p.m. And our next school board meeting is Wednesday, December 16th at 6:30. I know you will all be there with bells on, right? Thank you. All right. I think that's it for the night. Thank you all so very much for all of your input.
I just
Yes,
need a
thank you,
motion
Leslie.
to adjourn.
Who wants to motion?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn. I count as a second.
Yes.
Yes. We'll make
All
it a
right.
second.
Super.
And is everybody in favor of that?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll mark it unanimous. Meeting
Yes.
adjourned at 9:22.
Happy
Great
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Good health, everyone.
Good
Take
night.
care.